So we can go ahead and get started. Let me. Okay, wait. I've tagged everybody. I have to go back and tag Gilbert too.
It's a delay.
Back to,
Yeah, feedback.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's going into our Zoom now. There we go. Okay, hello, everyone. How are you? It's Dr. Lakeisha McGee, the founder of the Heal Her 2 Foundation. You know, we come to you every third Sunday for Survivor Sunday. Heal Her 2 Foundation provides wraparound services to breast cancer survivors and to their families. Those services are a plethora of things from a support group to a beautiful pink box of gifts of support. We offer a scholarship to help with finances. We will get on the phone and talk you through a treatment, whatever the need is. We are here to help the survivors. Today, I have two beautiful guests that I'm super excited about. One of them is looking like she's not excited, but I know she is. She is a plethora of information, and I promise you, she is amazing. Arnedra Jordan. Arnedra is the mother, a professor, an educator, a public health consultant, a reproductive justice advocate, humanitarian award recipient, and an active community member. Arnedra is an adjunct political science professor at West Los Angeles College. Arnedra currently works at Black Women for Wellness as the project manager, and Arnedra is the proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and she is the mother of two. Arnedra, thank you for being here with me. One thing she forgot to put on this, which I get on her about, is that she's also a co-author to the 12 Shades of Breast Cancer. And she always forgets to put that she is an author.
Yes,
Arnedra, thank you for being here. Yes. And then we have Ontisar Freeland. She is an engineer from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. She has been married for 26 years, has 3 children and a dog. She currently works as a high school PLTW engineering teacher. Along with her husband, she founded the nonprofit Health Research and Awareness, NFP, formerly Cancer Research and Awareness, NFP. The mission is to increase awareness about early detection and screens, in particular for breast cancer, and to refer women for mammogram screens. Each year, the nonprofit hosts a Beyond a Mammogram Hyde Park 5K, which is typically in the fall. She is also a co-founder of Beyond a Mammogram, which is primarily an educational initiative to help get the conversation started with young girls, women, and families about breast health and knowing your family medical history. While this effort targets all women regardless of race and ethnicity, programs are created to find ways to reach Black women within the inner city and neighboring suburbs. Local public health data, as well as data from the CDC, shows that Black women have the highest disparity rates when it comes to breast cancer. Health Research and Awareness, NFP, creates programs in the community to help eliminate this disparity. Thank you, Ontisar, for being here with me today. I appreciate you. I'm hearing a echo. Let me make sure that hold on, ladies. Let me make sure that I am all set up because I'm hearing a
feedback.
echo and I don't know.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe, hopefully I got it out now. Sounds better.
Mhm.
Okay, Ontisar, thank you for being here with us today. I appreciate you so much. So I
Thank
need you,
you.
I know you're on a time crunch today, so we're going to get started with you.
Okay.
Even though you are not a breast cancer survivor, you have helped many survivors to survive. Talk to us about your journey with breast cancer and all of the things that you've done and how you help women survive. Me being one of those women, I met you and walked me through Susan G. Komen doors, and here we go.
So here we go. So I was thinking about how long ago we started this, Lakeisha, and it's been about 15, 20 years. 2010. So it is now 2024. So 14 years. So 14 years ago, I started as a volunteer with Susan G. Komen. A friend asked me to volunteer, and the rest is history. So there has been numerous women that um, not just me alone, but as our group collectively that we have helped, that we have supported, that we have walked through their breast cancer journeys, that we have made sure that, if they weren't insured, they got mammograms, if they needed grief services, because with any diagnosis, right, you need those grief services, that we could get them grief services, etc. And my end goal, and there are some of us who have not completed this journey along the way with me, but my end goal is to make sure that, our grandchildren don't live in a world where there's no breast cancer. And so during my time at Susan G. Komen and now at Black Women for Wellness, we have a Keep in Touch program where we assist Black women with not just their breast cancer journey, but their breast health journey. So we're also doing research projects at Black Women for Wellness. We have Taking Stock. Taking Stock is looking at the correlations between the toxins that we use in our body, meaning the perms, all the chemicals that we use in our bodies, and looking at whether or not that is causing us as Black women to get breast cancer at a more aggressive rate. We also have another study that we're doing with the Environmental Protection Agency, that where we go to the salons and teach hairstylists how to we put these fans in and talk to them about being safe with chemicals in there, because they're in those chemicals all day long. So those are two of the programs I'm running. Our last program that we're running is with breast cancer prevention. It's called Beauty Justice. And so usually I give you a sheet and ask you how many products do you use per day. So I want to tell you this. 3 years ago, I was using 35 products per day, because you have to list every single thing. And so now I'm down to 12. Now I'm not giving up the MAC makeup. Everybody know that. I'm not giving up MAC, but I have given up other things and I tell people, when we look at your toxins, when we have you scan the Clearia app, etc., we are not telling you to stop and go home and throw away all your money. We are telling you the next time, make a healthier choice so that you can live a longer time, right? It's like with food, right? When we look at Every Woman Counts, at the Every Woman Counts program, when we're navigating women to get a mammogram, and then if they need a biopsy or they need an ultrasound, we don't tell you to, I always tell people, you got to eat healthier, you can't be obese, etc., because it just makes your body, you're able to fight cancer easier when you are in health. But does that mean that I'm gonna tell you not to have the birthday cake? Have the birthday cake, because we can't. Even if you do have the birthday cake or you don't have the birthday cake, you might still, everybody's treatment and journey is different. So those are some of the things that we are doing right now. We do have an event October 27th. It's our annual breast health party, where we paint bras, and the women act up on the golf course, and we'll do a second line on the golf course. It's October 27th at 11 a.m., 12 o'clock PST time, so 12 o'clock, at Skylinks in Long Beach. So those are some of the programs that we're doing. Clinical trials. I was really happy with that the American Cancer Society is looking at doing clinical trials. I'm excited to, when they reached out to me, I'm excited to see other organizations that are participating in clinical trials. And the reason why I say that clinical trials are important is because medication does not work the same on African Americans as it might have been tested on a white male. So we have to make sure that we're participating in clinical trials. And when we participate in these clinical trials, that we get the data, ask for the data. So a lot of times we participate in clinical trials and they don't come back to the community, and we don't hold them accountable to say what happened, what's the outcome. So 10 years later, get your data, and then share it with the community so that we know that maybe one medication didn't work for Lakeisha, but another medicine would work for someone else. So those are some of the things that we are in the process of doing at Black Women for Wellness as we advocate for health.
So, it's funny that you said about the medications not working the same. I remember listening to that was what we when your because tell them about your once a month that we get together and we talk because Ricky's daughter was on there and she was talking about that then. And that was
Ricky,
kind of the first time that I heard.
Ricky Farley. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Okay.
That
So,
I had heard.
uh, so that one is, why is it, it's going, it's Ricky Farley has, what is it? Keep in touch? No, not
Yes,
keep in touch. No, that's us.
that's
Ricky
us.
Farley has, yes. Ricky Farley,
She has
such amazing. Her and her daughter Haley Farley, they have this amazing program. Ricky Farley is the sweetest woman too.
yeah.
So they have this amazing program where they navigate Black women into clinical trials, because a lot of times clinical trials is what's going to save your life. It might prolong your life. And so I know that there's been some times when African Americans have been
It's touch. Her
touched. Yes,
program is
yes.
touch. Yes,
That's
thank
why I keep
you. I
saying
hate
keep in
to.
touch, because it's touch.
Yes,
So, but we have to participate in clinical trials, because
Mhm.
that is how we are going to live a long life. And that is also how we find out maybe we don't need as much of a bigger as dosage as they're giving. Maybe we need a bigger dosage. Maybe we don't need to take the medicine as long. But it also still goes back to early detection.
It
So
does. And I know people say, how is it that the medications don't affect us the same way? I mean, it's just as easy as us saying and knowing that triple negative, it attacks African American women way more than it attacks our Caucasian
white women,
counterparts.
right,
So,
right.
yeah, definitely. So it has to be some truth to that about the medications, having that same type of effect. So, tell us about when I first met you. You had the only program in the state of California through Susan G. Komen for brown women, Black women. Tell us a little bit about that program that you had, and what are they doing now to kind of replace that?
So, yeah, we had the only African American Initiative program that we say that was really in the country, in the United States. We started it. There was I had an amazing boss, Mark Pilon, who helped us put this program together, and some other amazing people. But we had this program that women could get free mammograms, women could get the services that they need, women could be referred to we did a wraparound service. So, and it took a lot of work, and it took a lot of trial and error, and we didn't know if it was going to be as successful as it was. Um, because we're learning from the community, and one of the things that I always say is that we have to be a listener of the community. So people would say, oh, that's great, you guys bring a mammogram truck, but you just brought a mammogram truck and you left. What's next? So we have to go back to the table. So what's next? Okay, now we need to bring in a social worker, because the social worker is the one who's going to navigate them through their journey. Oh, great. Now we need to bring in transportation, because if I have to choose between going to the doctor or paying for a meal for my children, I'm going to pay for that meal for my children and not go to the doctor. So now we need to find a way. So we provided Lyft rides for breast cancer patients to go to and from the doctor. Oh, great. Now they need food. So then we partnered with Project Angel so that people can get food. Now you tell me I need a wig. And I'm like, we need a good wig. We don't need just any wig. We need a good wig. So we need a human hair wig. So now we partner with the American Cancer Society, on their Look Good, Feel Good program, and we're transporting you to get a wig. So now people are telling me, you know what, my teeth, something's wrong with my teeth now because of the chemo. Okay, so let's find a program that's going to get you some dental work for free, because we can't just give people a pamphlet or resources, or tell them, oh, go over there, and not have systems in place to help them navigate. Not everyone can read and write. So I remember us writing this research paper, and it was 25 pages, and we thought we had did something. And someone going back to me, I used to work at the school district, and said, do you remember when at the school district we had to have everything in a third grade reading level? Y'all need to redo this to a third grade reading level so that people understand. And then we realized that we needed a community to form a group so that people who looked like us could talk to one another and figure out like, okay, this, we find out people have the same journeys, right? And we brought in some healers who did natural medicine, because not everyone is going to go um to the doctor. Not everyone, some people wanted to become vegan, so we had to bring in a programs where we have kitchen divas at Black Women for Wellness, but we had to bring in some chefs. Chef Carmen came in and taught us how to cook, and I was the first one. I don't want that vegan. I want some of this, and didn't know that the food she was giving me was vegan. Okay, because she taught us how to cook it a different way. Then people started saying my chemo treatment is causing me to have heart problems. So then we had to get to with the American Heart Association. Tamoxifen is causing my diabetes. So then we had to get with the American
Mhm.
Diabetes Association. So how it expanded was because someone would come to me and say, this is what my problem is. So Susan G. Komen no longer has an initiative that is community based. It's now nationally based. And I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I can tell you what we're doing at Black Women for Wellness. We're still providing the same services so that women who look like us can live a long, healthy life. They can live past the 5-year mark that a lot of women, they succumb to the disease at 5 years. One of the things that I really, really, and I keep trying to figure out when I'll have time to look at this, is we need to look at more Black women who have metastatic breast cancer. I see more women, more Black
Mhm.
women than ever surviving from metastatic breast cancer than I did
Mhm.
8, 9 years ago. So I need to know what they're doing,
Mhm.
how they're doing it. I just saw someone recently and I was like, wow, she's been metastatic 10 years. And Black women usually don't survive metastatic breast cancer 10 years. So looking at that and putting out an article, op-ed or something about metastatic breast cancer is on my list to do for the month of October, so that we can make sure that other women, know what to do when they become, if they should become metastatic. So
Mhm.
yes, those are some of the things that we're doing. We're still providing the services. We're still going to have a busy October. We are still looking, we're doing research now to look at, the background of it. There'll be some papers out that we'll be writing about um, our findings. And yeah, because it's important that we also document the journeys. And so that's why I'm always was glad that I was in the 12 shades of breast cancer, because we document it, because sometimes the effect of what one person had, we might not talk about, but they might see it online and say, I need to contact that person because we have the similar story. So I'm excited about where we're going with these
Mhm.
with what we're doing. Yes.
So, Shanette Kaywood, who's in the book, she is one of our co-authors. She has metastatic breast cancer.
I,
And for those who are listening, don't know what metastatic is when the breast cancer has metastasized and spread throughout your body. So, quote unquote, now it's a stage 4. Shanette Kaywood, who was also a guest speaker, she was one of my guest speakers back in February, but she's also a co-author. She has metastatic and she has lived 10 years
Mhm.
or 11. I can't remember which one it is this year, 10 or 11,
And looks
surpassed her
amazing.
diagnosis. And she
Right.
looks fabulous,
Amazing. Oh, yes.
fabulous. Okay. And she is going over to Africa and different parts of the world, helping build houses, habitat for humanities. And I think that's the name of it. Don't quote me, but she is living in her truth and she looks amazing. And she would definitely be a resource for someone who has metastatic breast cancer and needs someone to talk to. Shanette is amazing. She looks beautiful, and to God be the glory, she is doing well. She is doing well. She has managed her journey. She has decided on her treatment. She took control and said that I'm going to control this. I'm going to decide how I do this, what I'm going to take, how I'm going to live. And she is living and doing an amazing job. So, Arnedra, how long was the program in California before it was because I know you started it, you wrote the initiatives, because what Arnedra didn't tell you all is that she is a policy writer and she is jet sailing all across the world writing policies for women's health. So, two questions. One, how long was the program? I can never remember the name of the
So
program in California.
it was the African American Initiative, and I was the public health and policy consultant. And we got a couple of laws passed, oral parity being one of them, capping chemo
Mhm.
drugs. It was 12 years, but you know, it's a collective. So
Capping the cost of drugs. Is that what you said?
right,
Capping the cost of.
we capped the cost of drugs to 250 for chemo, and it was passed unanimously in the Senate and the House because of the fact that now, mind you, it was only done here in California. And Colorado
That
was
was
the
going to
first
be my
one
next
to
question.
actually pass the law. And then I want to
Mhm.
say now I was reading the article that said 47 47 states have it passed. That of course there's those three southern states that have not. But that's the usual with everything. So and then there was some work we did at the CDC with the CDC writing some public policies around breast health. That was done in about 8 years ago, and that was written on not just breast health, but cervical cancer too. And so now my job is a little different. I do reproductive justice work, but I still have the keep in touch. And here at Black Women for Wellness, I've signed on to some things, but we haven't published anything about breast health yet. And as far as policies, because I'm Senator Tony Atkins, she did have one that capped the amount that you could charge for a mammogram, I think it was. But we have not, because we do need to look at some policies now around breast health in California, especially for
Mhm.
Black. We just haven't done it
Mhm.
because there's a
Mhm.
lot of work, and you know we do need the manpower to do the work. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, the keep in touch that Arnedra referred to is where once a month you get together with other people who are working in actively working around breast cancer and breast health, correct? And we
Yes.
get together and we meet, and you're constantly trying to, and even though now you're working on reproductive health, you're still constantly trying to figure out how to keep breast cancer at bay, how we can make this thing, find some cures, find some support, do whatever. So keep in touch. Talk a little bit about that. I know I just gave a little spiel, but talk a little bit about keep in
So
touch.
we have about, we're up to now about 50 women, yay, who meet the third Wednesday. And the program's open to anyone. Everyone is welcome. Men, we have women, because we also know that men get breast cancer too. And we service men who have breast cancer, who have shared their stories, and some who will not share their stories and ask me to keep it a secret. So we meet once a month. We're meet in person 3 times a year. And what we do is there's always a guest speaker, and that guest speaker talks about um, resources that we can take back to our respective organizations. And so we have 3 in-person events. So October is where we'll do our big breast cancer event, and it's sponsored by Blue Shield this year. And then in December we'll have a party just for us to party and have a good time and have some cookies and some cake. Well, no, some fruits and vegetables, but y'all know we're gonna get a slice of cake in there too. But we will so the purpose of the keep in touch is to make sure that when someone calls us who has breast cancer, who's
Mhm.
diagnosed, who's re-diagnosed, who don't know where to go to get a mammogram, who doesn't understand
Mhm.
what a biopsy is, who needs their results read, who needs somebody to go with them, who needs a ride, that we can put you in touch with that person, and we can do it within 10 to 15 minutes of you calling, or 10 to 15 minutes of your email. Because we don't want you to wait 2 and 3 days, because we got to find somebody, we got to think about it. Now, there is some cases where I'd be like, "Ooh, I got to get back to you, because I'm gonna have to call around for that." But 9 times out of 10, we are able. I just last week I had 3 different people call me, 3 different people, 3 different situations with breast cancer. One person was his mom who went from stage 3B to stage 4 cancer. There was another person who this was her first diagnosis before she could freeze her eggs. And so we referred her to a fertility clinic. There was someone else who told me that they got chemo about 10 years ago. They had breast cancer. They had chemo about 10 years ago in their 20s. They're now in their 30s. And now they're starting to experience alopecia. So she wanted to know what she could do for that. So all the situations and the calls will be different. And I can't always answer the calls. So that's why I need that group I say, well, you go to this person. Oh, let me refer you here. Oh, so what did I do? I referred her to the Look Good, Feel Good program at the American Cancer Society because they have on-site hairstylists that can look and tell her what she can do for her hair. So those are some of the things that we do. And it's nice to be able to pick up the phone and call a person who you know, or shoot that person a text. Look, we do this all the time. Shoot that person a text and say, hey, I need A, B, and C. Can you get this for them? And here's their number versus, oh, let me email them. Let me see. Oh, they didn't answer me. And then that person gets lost in the system because that has what has happened. And that is the reason why us as African American women have died because we got lost in the system. People couldn't give us the services in a few minutes. We got lost or we gave up or we just, it felt like so. Someone else told me, they said, my husband, um, you know, um, is grieving because I only have so many months to live. What can you do for me? And I said, okay, when we start on the Springs of Hope Grief Center. So it's nice to be able to say, okay, let me just text this person and we can't always fix the problem, but we can assist you with the problem.
You can support them.
Right.
Yeah, that's the one thing I love about Arnedra. I can call her, I can text her and be like, sis, I need X, Y, and Z. And she always gonna have the resources on deck. She be like, Lakeisha, I'll call you right back. Or Lakeisha, give me a minute. She has those resources now. I know that you have a plethora of resources, but a bulk of most of them is in California because of the impact and where you're at and working for Susan G there and women's health there. So, and I know you have a short time with us tonight. So if someone needs to get in touch with you for support, how would they reach you?
So they would email me at arnedra@bwwla.com. And that's ARNEDRA@bwwla.com. Or they can go on our website, Black Women for Wellness. We have a full page of breast health resources. You can send me a chat. What is that when they fill out a touch? It's a request form on the website. So if you go there, click under breast health, you'll see us pictures of all the stuff we've done, and you can go on there and send me an email too from there, and then we can get it started and help you with whatever we can within. So we also have I would also like to invite people in our November, we're gonna have a chef come on and help us do some healthy cooking. So this month we're having our Keep in Touch program September 21st. It's going to be us planning our October event because we still have some things that we need to plan for October. But October we will not meet because we'll meet in person. And then in November, there will be a chef who will come on and teach us how to make some healthy snacks that we can keep and take with us so that we can, yes, healthy snacks. So, and we'll have a vegetarian and a vegan option. So, yeah, that will be our November meeting.
So one other thing, I know I heard you say that you all were working on a couple of different clinical trials or trials. Are those already filled, or if someone wanted to, get information about it or become a part of those trials, is that on the website or?
That's on the website, and then I can also refer them to Haley because Haley's leading the clinical trials. Yeah.
Okay. So once again, they would reach out to you that same email or go on the
Mhm.
website.
And then Haley do that.
Okay.
So we assigned each other roles so that this would be easy work. It's never easy, but it's, it would be better and
Well,
efficient.
I appreciate you so much for coming on because, as I said, I can't keep up with you. One day you're in DC, the next day you're in California, the next day you're in Chicago. I cannot keep up with you because you are out here actively doing the work for women, and I appreciate that. I appreciate it so much. I do. So thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on. You're welcome to stay, and I know you got to go. So whenever you got to drop off, that's
I
fine.
am leaving,
But
and thank you.
okay,
And
uh,
okay, have me back in maybe in January when it's not so bad.
okay,
All right. Thank you. Nice to meet you,
You
Freelain.
too. Yes.
Bye-bye.
okay.
It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, Arnedra. Thank
Bye.
you.
Love you. Bye.
Okay. Love you too. Okay. Ontisar, it's just us now. It's just us.
It's just
Thank you for
us.
just being patient and letting Arnedra, yes, get through all of her stuff. I don't know. I can't keep up with her, honestly. I do not know how she does all the stuff that she's doing for women. And as we said, now she's doing reproductive health, but it was breast cancer, and she's still in the midst of the breast cancer with teaching and policies. And I don't know how she do it. Then for fun time, she runs a Brown Girl Reads like book club where they meet at different states. And I don't know how she do it. I don't know how she do it. But it's you and I now. So I'm ready to hear your story and ready to hear about your nonprofit and all the work that you're doing because you're doing some great work too. So the floor is yours.
Well, I just want to say how
Tell me
much
about when,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, tell me about your diagnoses and how that's, how your process went and what was your treatment plan like and how did you become to your nonprofit?
Wow. So first, I say how much of a pleasure it is to be on your show, to be here talking with you and to have heard what Arnedra is doing. I just, I just couldn't wait to hear it, and I am not disappointed. What an incredible woman and effort that she's leading. And it is so, so, so very much needed, right? So we just need to multiply her and have one of her in every state,
Right.
and we'll be good.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Yeah.
for
It's
sure.
amazing to hear the advocacy that she's doing, especially because she's not even a survivor. So that's really what is such an
Exactly.
amazing thing about it is that she's out here advocating as if she was a survivor and she's not.
And this is the
So,
thing, and we'll talk about my story, but this is the thing. This is what we all need to be doing because the
mhm,
statistics speak for themselves that, 1 in 8 women, and it feels like, within our community, it's like every other woman that is either
yes.
impacted by breast health issues
Mhm,
or knows a friend. So
mhm,
we really need to be working in the advocacy sector. We need to
mhm,
be having these kind of conversations more often or more frequently. Because
mhm.
as you know very well, Dr. McGee, we're not having these conversations enough within our
Not enough.
community.
No.
Exactly. And sometimes it feels like we don't want to have them much at all. So this is something
Mhm,
that we have to figure out. And I want to say to you, even before we start talking about my own experience, I have to say, like, even locally, I've worked with and talked to many of the people, within this area, many experts, many of the
mhm,
institutions, they don't know the answer to how to get our women
mhm,
to pay attention in this area.
mhm,
And so it almost seems surprising, right? Like, how could institutions that are well funded, well endowed, they don't know how to help us understand how to reach our women, how to get them to
mhm,
engage on this topic, and how to, begin to do something about our health in the area of breast health. So this is really something that I've learned, just kind of in this, working in this area, being a servant in the area of community health, for breast health. So, and that's something we certainly can talk more about, but I know that you want me to talk about my
Well, no,
story.
this is fine because this is part of how we get this started. We start talking more about this type thing. We start, bringing our sisters into these circles, and this is how we start encouraging to know more about. It's about educating and about awareness for sure. So
Yes.
this is how we impact them. Impact other women. I know for myself, I couldn't tell you anything about my family's history um, before myself or my cousin who were diagnosed with breast cancer. I couldn't tell you anything about another family member in our past that may have been affected by it because we did not have these conversations within our
That's
own
right.
families and our own households. We weren't
That's
having
right.
these conversations. So this is
Absolutely.
how we
And
started. We conversate.
yes.
We
And for me, it
no,
was
no
my
we share.
grandmother. We share.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to you for having this platform. Seriously, it's greatly needed. So, even
Thank
for
you.
me and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother passed away of breast health
Mm-hmm.
back in, and I try to use the word health versus the cancer word whenever I can. But she passed away from breast cancer back in, I think it was 1976. From what I understand, and of course, I learned more about it after I went through what I went
Mm-hmm.
through. But she had, from
Mm-hmm.
what I understand, she had battled with it for almost 10 years. So
Mm,
imagine back in the late 60s working
mm,
through breast cancer, right?
mm-hmm.
And from what my mom told me, and this is what inspired her to go on to be a nurse, um, she had to undergo radiation, and it was almost like it was cooking her.
Mm.
Imagine. Imagine that back in the 60s.
Oh, I can because
So,
I've been there. Yes,
yeah,
I can imagine it. Definitely.
right. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
With the lack of
so,
education and the lack of equipment that they had back then, the
exactly,
technology, I should say. Yeah, I can imagine.
exactly,
Definitely. Because
exactly.
it's
And
still
so,
it's painful now. So I can only imagine what it was like
yeah.
back then.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It almost brings
Mm.
tears to your eyes. So my grandmother, and I'll just kind of, jump in where, start with some of the story and then we can figure out, what we want to kind of focus more on. But
Mhm.
my grandmother, as I mentioned, my maternal grandmother, and maybe that begins my story, right? She
Mhm.
passed away of breast cancer in about 1976. I was about 4 years
Okay.
old at that time. And so my family, and this is what you were mentioning, we didn't talk about it too much, right?
Mhm.
And I get that because that's painful. Watching your loved one pass away. I believe my mother was her primary caregiver. And again, that helped pave the way for her to go on to be a nurse. And she recently retired from nursing after almost 40 years. Um, but she took care of my grandmother, and my grandmother did pass away. And afterwards, we didn't talk much about it. I think it was just the level of pain that was there.
Mhm.
Just, maybe it was just too painful for my mother and my aunt. And so, we kind of just tried to pull together and go on with our lives the best way that we could. And nobody ever really talked about it. Now, my mom, she did
Yeah.
have, she dealt with, I believe, some type of uterine cancer back in the 80s. And I was very small, but I remember my mom going away for a while. And we
Mhm.
stayed with my aunt. So, she dealt with some uterine cancer. I think it was early staging, now that we've talked about it since. But of course, again, terrifying, right? Like, my mom was a single mom, and, having to dealing with uterine cancer, like shortly after your mom passed away of breast cancer. So while we saw that happening, of course, being so young, we didn't know the details or the nature of what, my mom was dealing with. We did visit her one time in the hospital, But again, we didn't understand the details of what she was facing. By God's grace, she made it through that. So of course, again, we kind of just go on, right? We went on and living the life living we could, right? So
Mm-hmm.
leading into my personal experience. So around the age of 39, I was still in corporate at that time, working at a large company. And I was dealing with some, just trying to find the right primary care, someone closer to my home, that kind of thing. And I was dealing with some blood pressure issues at that time. And my
Mm-hmm.
husband was all in my business. I didn't want him in my business, but he was insistent, that he come to the doctor. I finally found someone, a clinic, a doctor's office near my home, and he wanted to come, and I was just like, okay, no problem, just okay. So he was almost nearly taking over that appointment, but again, he was trying to help advocate for me. And I remember the woman that was the doctor that I was seeing at that time or went to, she did a very, very thorough history,
Mm-hmm.
medical history, family history. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
that happening only twice in my entire medical history experience going to the doctor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she was like, somehow she got to, the history of my grandmother because, I wasn't offering anything up, not trying to keep everything secret, but it was just,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the MO, right? So she got to my grandmother, and she had figured out that my grandmother had passed away of breast cancer. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember her saying to me, what were they waiting for? And I remember her saying that. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, she was like, you need a mammogram. And I was 39 at
Mm-hmm.
that time. And I was like, well, okay,
So
sure, I'll get one.
said when she said what were they waiting for, she was meaning the doctors, meaning that because of your grandmother, your maternal grandmother passing from breast cancer, you should have had a mammogram earlier than 40. That's what she was referring to.
Absolutely. So if you even
Okay.
go to
Yes.
the American Cancer Society, thank you for breaking that down. If you go to the American Cancer
Mm-hmm.
Society, you'll see that they have, or at least last I checked, they have a part of the site that talks about knowing your risk factors. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So family history can determine if you are higher risk for breast cancer.
Absolutely.
So if
Absolutely.
your
Yes.
family or familial history involves maternally, like for example, my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother having breast cancer and certainly having had passed away of breast cancer, then
Mm-hmm.
I believe the rule has been 10 years prior to the diagnosis of that person,
Mm.
you should be getting a mammogram
Okay.
or
So you
higher
were
sophistication.
39, so your child should
Yes.
be 29.
I should have been by the early 30s at the latest
Mm-hmm.
getting mammogram screens or higher
Mm-hmm.
sophisticated imaging, which means higher sophistication starting with an ultrasound and
Ultrasound,
maybe
correct.
exactly
Yes.
CAT scan, maybe MRI. So
Yes.
at the very least, we would say higher sophisticated imaging. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what she was
And
talking
wait,
about.
let's break that down for a minute. Because women hear about getting that mammogram, but we want them to understand that sometimes, like if you are African American woman and you have dense tissue, dense breast, you need to request an ultrasound because an ultrasound can see things that she's saying, as Ontisar is saying, higher sophisticated imaging, it can see what those mammograms cannot.
Can I see
So the
through?
MRIs, yes, the MRIs, the ultrasounds, those things are request those, and especially if you have the family history, like I spoke of. I didn't know my family
Yes.
history. Antasar, she knew her family history, so those things are important to know. My daughters will be getting mammograms, ultrasounds much sooner than I did. So,
Yes, yes. And let's talk a little bit about that as well. So when we talk about knowing your risk factors, obviously familial
Mhm.
history is a major one, but something else that a
Mhm.
lot of people don't talk about as far as risk factors is the texture of your breast, right? Like even before you start talking about mammograms and dense
Mhm.
breasts obviously would be another risk factor
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
sense, but the texture of your breast. Some women, and I was one of those women that had lumpy breasts from the start.
Mhm.
From the start. So lumpy breast is another category of risk factors. So
Mhm.
if you,
It
and this
is.
is, yes, and this is something I know that growing up, a lot of women would say, we talk about
I
it, I
never
think in
heard of
passing.
that. I never heard of it. Going to the
Yes,
doctor for my pap smears or things of that nature, they touch your breasts or whatever a little bit to help you, but I've never heard them mention dense breasts, lumpy breasts,
yes,
mammogram, nothing. Not, and I
yes.
mean nothing. And it is definitely something, a conversation that should be had before a woman is 40 to wait on a mammogram. At least start talking to them about lumpy breasts, dense breasts, things of that nature. But I never heard of that until I became a survivor.
There is so much work to be done in this area, especially for our
Yeah.
community. So again,
Mhm.
kudos to you for having the platform. So if you have the lumpy breasts, that's
Yeah.
another category of risk, and you should be getting higher sophisticated imaging. A
Mhm.
mammogram by itself, great starting point, but it probably is not where you should be ending. So
Mhm.
again, like you said, I didn't know all of those things. Even having
Nope.
been as educated as I was, as self-empowered as I felt growing
Mhm.
up and being all educated and being all
Mhm.
in corporate, none of it mattered
If you
when it came.
don't know, you don't know.
Yes. When it came to the health of my breasts, I was a kindergartner. Okay.
Yeah.
So getting back to the story, so the woman at the doctor's office, I mean, she was peeling me apart. I think I was in there 2 hours just on the medical history. And she
Mhm.
was just like, what were they waiting for? And I'm like, okay, I'll go to get the mammogram. So shortly, I'm sure it was within a month of that, I was getting my mammogram for the first time. And I think maybe 2 weeks or so, or 33 weeks after that point,
Mhm.
I got a letter, which is the findings report, right? So I
Mhm.
open up the findings report, and some reason, I don't know if I was working from home that day. This was back way before COVID. This was like 2012, probably something like that. And
Mhm.
so it might have been 2011. And so I'm opening up this findings report. My heart is just racing, and it goes, you have to come back for a diagnosis. So not expecting that at all. And it went on to say that I had suspicious tissue in I think it was my right breast, right?
Mhm.
So I'm
Mine
just
was my
like,
left.
I think you know what? Mm. I thank God for forgetting. I'm just going to tell you, because that means that I've been doing okay. And I don't go back through my medical files trying to read everything to making sure even when I speak, because I thank God. I'm honest about it. I thank God for being able to forget. So the
Mhm.
mammogram finding report said that it had found some suspicious tissue, and I needed to come back. And I think it called out my left breast. And I went back for that second mammogram. Now, before that, when I got my findings report, my heart raced. I did a self-exam, and with that, I could feel a lump.
Mhm.
Now, my breasts were typically lumpy, but
Mhm.
I felt a more prominent lump, ironically,
Mhm.
after reading
Mhm.
that findings report. So I go
Mhm.
back to the diagnostic, which was the second mammogram of the season. And so
Mhm.
I went in, and I don't recommend this for anyone. And so I actually want to use my story as an example of what not to do. And it took me a minute to not be sad about what happened, but I need people to know what not to do. So I went into the breast mammogram center, and I was afraid. I was just genuinely scared. And so I
Mm,
went in and I didn't even going in to check in, I didn't mention that I felt a lump. When I went into the technician, because usually it's a technician that does your mammogram. So when I
mhm,
went into the technician, I just kind of wanted to throw something out there, right? I said,
mhm,
well, is that machine really sophisticated? I said, is it really can it capture almost anything? And because I felt something up high in my breast. Can it see it? And
mhm,
God bless her, the technician goes, this is a very powerful machine, and it can see things, like it can find, she was trying to imply
mhm,
that it could see what I was concerned about. Now,
mhm.
you, first of all, we all know from going to the doctor, you don't ask the technicians a medical question. I don't know if you've been told that before. And this is no diss to a technician, because you could be the very best absolutely in your job. And we all should strive for that, right? But they're not
Yeah.
MDs, and they are not, research scientists in that regard to be able to be qualified to answer those kinds of questions. But again, I knew what I was doing. I was super scared. I was super afraid. And I lobbed something out there and I got the answer that I wanted. It was not the answer that I needed.
Mhm.
It was not the answer to help secure my health. So I want to at that, and within this example, I was an example of what not to do, right? Like we got to
Well,
figure out and find out.
when I got my
Go ahead.
biopsy, I did the same thing. I asked him,
Mm,
the technician, "Do you think this is cancerous or not?"
yeah.
And he was like, "Honestly, I think it is." And I was like, "Okay." I mean, I went on my merry way. Um, so I guess we both did what we should not have done, because I surely did ask. And he was like, "Yeah, I think it is, honestly." I mean, he was a young black man. He was a doctor, though. He did have some good credentialing, so
Yeah.
I
Okay.
trusted what he said.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe he
I
knew
just
more
trusted him.
than, yeah, yeah. And maybe we,
Yeah,
in that case, you might have been blessed in that sense where he actually might have
yeah,
actually known. And I don't mean to say that you were blessed that he caught that out,
yeah.
but maybe he actually did, like
But
you
he
said.
did.
Yeah.
He
So
called it out. Like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So the woman did the mammogram. And I think within a week of that, I got an all clear findings report. Now,
Mm,
so within I think what I did at that point was within like maybe a month of that, I made an appointment for my OB, because that was
mm-hmm,
the medical provider I was seeing the most, right? Most women see their
mm-hmm,
OB the most. So
mm-hmm,
I got a copy of the findings report. I got the film, you know how they do a like a recording. They put it on film. I got all
mm-hmm.
of that.
Yeah.
And so my
Mm-hmm,
plan was to take all of that to my doctor and have a
mm-hmm,
talk with her. So I made the appointment. It was for months later. And what's interesting is that I could still feel that lump that I didn't speak to. So I still look, I didn't panic, right? Like I stayed calm, right? But there's a time when you
mm-hmm,
should not be calm, right? So I stayed calm. I made my appointment with my normal OB. I made a normal appointment. I didn't tell them I felt a lump, so they scheduled me months out. And then, given all of the demands that I had on me in corporate at that time, I had all kinds of international meetings, right? Like, and I was just like,
mm-hmm.
okay, well, this project has to get done. And wow, I don't have time to go to my doctor on that day. I'm going to reschedule that appointment.
Oh, wow.
Again, here's an example of what not to do. So
Wow.
I rescheduled my OB appointment. I think she wound up giving me an appointment sometime in like, it was like August. It moved from July to maybe August or September. And
Mm-hmm,
I can still feel that lump. And so I was talking to a girlfriend, and this was, I mean, we were actually, no, before that, I finally made my way to the doctor's appointment. And the doctor, she comes in, and you know how overworked they are. So I'm sitting in the room. I did hand her the findings report. I gave her the film and I said, here's what they said. And so I let her read it. I gave her a minute to read it and I told her I could still feel a lump. So she looked over the record. She did her physical digital exam of my breast. And she tells me, okay, yeah, I feel that. That's not normal. Keep an eye on it. And she walked out the room. Now let's have a moment of silence on purpose. Okay. She walked out the room. Now this is the woman that
Can
helped
I
me
ask you, what was her nationality? What was her
let me
nationality?
just, yeah, she was not African American. She was not African American. And she had helped me with one of my children, my last. She helped me schedule my last baby, my daughter, because, and giving her credit for that, she, getting to the doctors, even getting to the delivery room was hard because my husband was a police officer and he was working nights. And on my second, I couldn't even reach him. My aunt had to come and take me to the doctor's, to the delivery room. So she did know that. And to give her credit, she was trying to look out for me on my third baby. But I tell you what, I don't know where she was on planet Earth when she dealt with me that day. Yeah.
Wow.
It's unreal. Unreal.
Wow.
So just to kind of keep this story moving along. So she walked out on me. And I have to say, though, I walked out on myself, Dr. McGee. I walked out on myself, right? Because we have to be our own best advocates first.
Best advocate. You are the expert on you, for sure.
Even if just intuition. I don't care if you know the scientific name. You know how you feel, right?
Yeah.
So
you are the expert on you.
She walked out on me. And when she walked out, I said, well, I guess I'll keep an eye on it. And guess what I did? I just did just that. I didn't tell anybody there was a physical lump other than her. I went on with my happy business until one day I was talking to a best girlfriend. Now, you know how everybody has a best girlfriend that is like a pistol. They'll tell anybody off at any given time for any reason, they deem necessary. So I'm talking to her on the phone. And she's just like, I had a scare. I had felt something in my breast and I forced them to give me a biopsy that day. And I went, wow, that's interesting. I had a scare too. And I had 2 mammograms and a doctor physical exam. And she told me, the exam told me benign, or the mammogram told me benign, and the doctor told me to keep an eye on it. So my best friend, she goes, they cannot tell you benign from a mammogram. And with that, my heart sank into the pit of my stomach. And I said, and I knew in my heart of hearts, something was severely wrong. Dr. McGee, at that point, it wasn't just one lump. I felt 2 lumps. 2. And, it's just, it's only God for me that I could even sit here and tell you this story. First of all, to be alive. Second of all, yeah.
I'm listening to your story and yours align with mine's in a few areas, even though it was a little different. I too had an issue with the first doctor who he told me he didn't think, not the biopsy guy, not the doctor who biopsy, but the first doctor, he was like, oh, I don't think it's breast cancer. And then when he rescheduled my appointment to come back after my biopsy results, he had me sitting in the waiting room for about an hour and a half for them to come out and tell me he couldn't see me. He had to leave. It was an emergency. So you're just going to leave me hanging? My results were not important enough for him at that point. So I changed doctors. I did not go back to him because I didn't feel comfortable at that point. So also to your point, there was the lump that I found that was in there had been in there because I didn't go to the doctor for a lump. I went to the doctor because my nipples were bleeding, but there had been a lump in my breast and I had just had a mammogram, not even 4 maybe 4 months before, and the mammogram came back normal. It was okay. But yet now here we are 4 or 5 months later, my nipples are bleeding. And when they did finally ultrasound my breast, I had three in my breast. The one that had been there, one was like in my rib cage, and then there was another one. So to your point, those mammograms are not the be all, do all. You have to advocate for yourself. So I walked out on me when I was sitting there letting my nipples bleed, and I was enjoying summertime shy instead of going to
Wow.
the doctor right away. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, and we could go on, couldn't we? Right. And I just want to mention this, and I'll continue and finish the story. There has to be a way to reach our women so that they can hear the story, yes, but take the takeaways from our stories is what we need to figure out how to transfer. So just to kind of get ready to wrap up the story, my girlfriend is who alerted me and that something had to be done. So when we got off the phone, and I have to even say, when we got off the phone, I still didn't call in a day at work and rush into the breast clinic or even the doctor's office. I waited 30 more days until my next annual scheduled mammogram. It's
God
just this,
bless you.
oh my gosh. Even to tell the story at a certain point earlier
So when
on.
you got your diagnosis, what stage were you?
Okay. So I'm going to answer that, I promise you. After I talked to my girlfriend on the phone and waited, when I went to the mammogram office, because I had talked to my girlfriend and knew something was wrong and knew I had to advocate for myself and stop being afraid, I went into the door, all through the door, almost crying, almost shouting, I feel lumps. And at that moment, the woman at the front desk, the receptionist clearly said to me, okay, when there are lumps, we sticker them. So immediately walking through the door, because I said the trigger word, literally the receptionist, who's not medically trained in that regard, start giving me what I needed to sticker those lumps. And as soon as she said that, I said, oh God, I think I'm in trouble today. So the lumps got stickered, and because of insurance protocol, they still had to do the mammogram in both breasts, and they jumped to a diagnostic. And guess what? It missed it. Still, the lumps that was more, it was at least two lumps got missed that time again. So because they knew there were lumps, and I came in with my courage after having learned that I have to speak up for myself, advocate for myself. They went on, they could feel the lumps. It was missed by the mammogram. By God's grace, I think it was like just days before Christmas. I think it was like it was the Friday before Christmas. And I guess maybe a lot of people had canceled. I don't blame them in a sense. Who the heck want to talk about mammograms before Christmas? And so they had openings in their schedule. So the woman told me that, and I think at that point, maybe the doctor or the radiologist was coming in at that point. She said, well, we just so happens we have an opening in our schedule and we can do your ultrasound. So I'm just sitting there almost in tears at that point. They did the ultrasound, and now the radiologist is doing the ultrasound. And she's just like, and this is how I knew something was terribly wrong. She goes, well, I'm seeing something, but I pray that it's whatever she was calling out. And I said, oh my gosh, doctors generally do not talk like that. They speak from the science, so to speak, or the statistics. They don't usually let you into their hopeful nature, their praying side, They don't really do that. They speak from what the protocol calls out, most doctors, right? So I was like, okay. So she goes, oh, and I have to tell you this, Dr. McGee, what happened. So she goes, well, I can offer you two things. She says, we could put a marker on this. Now she knew it had been missed a year, Dr. McGee. She said, I can put a marker on this and we can call you back in 6 months and we can evaluate it then. And almost, there are tears almost forming in my eyes. She said, or we can do a biopsy. And I almost yelled, biopsy me. Now, I just want to say the importance of having talked to my best girlfriend and just kind of absorbing and how she transfers some of that side of into me that she has. I told her she's like a pistol. So had that woman offered that, and that's the radiologist MD, had she offered that, had I not been prepared, forewarned is being forearmed, I might have taken her up on her offer to mark the
And to mark them, right? But
to mark them.
you're saying something that's so important. One, you're saying here you are, an educated woman already. You're educated. Two, it took the conversation of a friend who was more informed about the situation for you to grab some courage and go with it. So this is what happened in our community so often is we have uneducated women who are struggling, economically, socially, emotionally in our communities who don't have the education, the know all, the with all, anyone informing them, sharing. And this is how we are diagnosed later, stages are later, and we're dying earlier.
And then some
because
brilliant
we
MD.
don't.
Yes. Go ahead. My apologies.
It's the lack of education and it's the lack of awareness in our community. So this is why it's so important for us to keep talking about this, keep talking about it, keep sharing these stories so women can say, aha,
that's
I
right.
need to talk to someone. I need to go somewhere.
Yes. And so, and I apologize. I didn't mean to say brilliant MD because that was sarcasm and I didn't mean to turn to
No,
that.
no, you're fine. No, you're fine. No.
Yeah, and I do apologize for that because there are brilliant MDs out there. And so she offered me the option to wait 6 months to do anything, to even explore what that lump could be.
I can't even believe that. But I can believe that. And I'm being sarcastic. Yeah.
And wait till you hear what the breast surgeon said. Yes.
We are not
wait till you
important
hear what
all the time. And we get put on the back burner. And this is where the distrust of our doctors come into play as well for us as African American women. They don't take our health serious. There's another woman in my book, in my anthology. Her name is Free. She went to the emergency room and she was complaining of headaches, but she kept insisting, hey, give me a mammogram, give me a mammogram. They kept telling her, no, she didn't need one. She demanded. And guess what? It came back positive. Not only was she positive, Free has been a breast cancer survivor twice. Not only was that, she's had the BRCA gene. Her sister, two of her sisters have had breast cancer. Her daughter has had breast cancer. Rest her soul, her sister Keisha passed earlier in this year from breast cancer. But it was because Free demanded that they take her health serious, and she wasn't leaving without a mammogram. She said she felt it. She knew something wasn't right.
It's just so touching.
Yeah.
So we could go on for hours. Yes. So so just so happened because it was before the holiday, I guess there were cancellations, which I totally understand. And she said, we can do your biopsy today. So she biopsied me. And because I feel like Christmas was like Monday, it was a Friday. So Christmas was on golly geez, I don't remember when, I think it was on a Sunday. And so she said they would call me Monday or something like that with the results. It was Monday or Tuesday. So lo and behold, she called that morning, that following morning after the holiday, because I was all patched up for Christmas and keeping my secret because I didn't tell my family. Only my husband knew. And so she calls and she goes, it's malignant. And my whole heart shattered into 1,000, 10,000 tiny pieces. Now, because my husband was working nights at that time and he had just gotten home, I didn't want to wake him up. He had been working all night. I didn't want to wake him up because this is not a conversation you can have and go back to sleep. So I did give him the grace of getting probably like, some sleep. I told him in the evening when he was waking up, but I was talking to my mom and she's a nurse, a very good nurse. And she was going through all her books and you know what I'm saying? And one thing that hit me throughout this conversation with my mom is at one point she threw out, because she was at work, so she would talk to me, then call me back, go back to her books, and I knew she was consulting with her nurse colleagues as well. Then she called me back. And then at one point she said, well, and get this, Dr. McGee, she said the 5-year outlook, and I have to admit to you that it had not even sunk in that there was even the realness that it's something that it might be a question if I could live through beyond 5 years. So throughout the day,
This
they
is
were
year
doing
4 for me. This is year
praise
4.
God, and may healing be with you,
Mhm.
So the doctors were busy making multiple disciplinary, like that meeting or that appointment. I think they scheduled it for that Friday. My husband, I did wake him up. Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies about the staging. It comes later, but the radiologist said that she thought that it wasn't that big or whatever. So when I went to the multiple disciplinary meeting, that's where the radiologist comes in. You've got the breast surgeon and the chemotherapy, the oncologist. Sorry, I was gonna say the chemotherapy lady, the oncologist. So, of course, after telling my husband about it, we just what he was near tears, right? It was the worst thing I could have woken him up to. But so we went to the multiple disciplinary appointment. My mother, and my aunt. And it was at that appointment that the breast surgeon said that she felt that it was, I think she said a stage 2. She felt that it was a stage 2. Now, she said, but she really couldn't see everything that she needed to see. And what felt small, she wondered if it was more going on in the breast. So, of course, after that diagnosis, I went, they did all the PET scans. Because at that point, she knew it had been missed for a year. So she's looking for cancer in my body. So I got the call from, after the PET scans and things like that. She goes, it's localized to your breast. But she couldn't give the final. Yes, let's give it up to God for his mercy, his grace, and just the healing,
Because
And
baby, in 1 year, a lot can transpire. A
yes,
lot can transpire in
yes,
just a few months when it comes to cancer, and people don't realize that it
yes,
just a few months difference can be life changing, like seriously.
yes,
But
and
to
hence
God
why
be the
we do what we
glory.
do. To God be all the
Yeah.
glory. Amen. And so, through the PET scans, and she's literally hunting for cancer. It didn't hit me until after the first round of them when she called me back to tell me that she hadn't found any other cancer. Like, and I'm still, you're in a whirlwind. Your mind, your head is spinning. I was having
It
headaches.
happens so fast.
Yes,
Everything happens so fast.
so fast. And I was having headaches at that point, dizzy spells. And she assured me she felt that it was just the stress of it all. But they did brain scans. And so when she called me after that first round of scans, it hit me then. And somehow, I don't know, I think my husband was working nights. We were sitting in the living room together, and she said that she hadn't found it anywhere else. And after we got off the phone, he and I both realized what kind of phone call that was, Dr. McGee, what the nature of that call was. So I knew I was up against something, but when she relieved me of what I didn't even understand that I was up against, that's when it hit me, what I was dealing with. So
Yeah.
she diagnosed it as 2, and I don't remember if it was A or not at that point. I don't recall the details of it, but I do recall the outcome. So I went in for surgery, and she removed, I told her I opted for a bilateral mastectomy because of the family history. And because of the family history, insurance covered it. But I knew I needed to have a clean start, so to speak.
Yeah. I
And
was 2B, almost 3, and I did the same thing. I did a bilateral as well.
bilateral, yes, get a clean start, right? And so in the surgery, and let me tell you what God did for me. The breast surgeon, she went in, she removed my breast. But what she told me, and I want to share this, she went into my lymph nodes. I guess they have a protocol where the protocol at that time, and we're talking over 10 years ago now, so it may have changed, I'm not sure. It was to check 5, I think, distal lymph nodes, given whatever she found. The protocol said to check 5 out. She told me after the surgery, after I woke up the next day, of course, I woke up after the surgery, but when I saw her the next day, I should say, she told me that she continued her search because of how it had been missed for a year. She continued her search into my lymph nodes. And because of her experience, not the protocol, her experience, she found a cancer further out than it should have been. And because of her search, she removed all my lymph nodes. At
Girl, you
that point,
giving
she
me
went.
chills.
Yes, you
I'm saying they
understand.
removed 8 of my lymph nodes. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And because she knew the story of what had happened to me for a
Wow.
year, and she felt like there was some more things going on, but until she got in there, she couldn't give a final, you know what I'm trying to say, report as far as the
Thank
full
God she kept
diagnosis.
searching though.
She kept
Thank God she
searching,
kept
Dr.
searching.
McGee,
Yeah. Yeah.
because of her
Because
experience and maybe intuition.
yes, because
And
that right there, if she would have left that lymph node, it could have it would have turned into the cancer that you didn't want to have. It would have came right on back and spread. And so thank God she was persistent in checking.
that's what you just said. What you just said.
Yeah.
So she goes to town on my lymph nodes because she found something that was not anticipated, and pulled all my lymph nodes out my right, whatever. I guess I'm sure they're still microscopic lymph nodes or whatever, but
Yeah.
she pulled them. I think it was 26 or something. She pulled them all
Ooh.
and tested all of them. And by God's grace, they came back after she saw what she saw. Beyond that, they all came back clean.
Clean. Yes.
And my
Yes.
margins were clean.
My
So
margins weren't clean.
the margins
My
were.
margins, they weren't. They were one of where the third tumor was. It was too close, so the margins he wasn't sure if they were clean or not. So that's why he had to wind up doing 32 rounds of radiation because
Got
the
it.
margins, yeah, they weren't clean. So
Got you. Got you. And may God's healing be upon you continually, my
it
sister.
is so much to this
Yeah.
breast cancer journey. It
Yeah.
is so much to the treatment to try to save your life.
That's
It is
right.
just it's so much. I'm listening to
Yes.
your story, and I have chills because I know what you're saying when you're saying that the
Yeah.
cancer was out a little bit further into that lymph node than it should have been, than she wanted it to be. So she wasn't sure. She had to make sure. It's so real. It's so
It's-
real. And until you've
it
been
is.
there, you don't get it. You don't get it. But it
Yeah.
is so real.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And so, from there, first, and as you very well know, that is why we do what we do continually, ongoingly, and whatever exhaustion hits, we keep going as far as raising the awareness. So I went through the chemo.
Mhm.
The doctors felt that I didn't need radiation. So I
Good.
didn't have to do radiation, but I did the
Mhm.
chemotherapy.
Very
Um,
good.
and uh, they I'm more than 5 years out. So
Praise God.
the onco and I did change my doctor team. Um, and at this point, I think I see them every 5 years, but it's been a blessing. And when I tell you, as you know, uh, the mercy and grace of God is something truly to behold.
Everything.
Yes, it's
It's
everything.
everything. Yes,
It's
it is.
everything. It's everything. Life
Yeah.
changing, renewing, all
This
of
is the
those
club
things.
that you don't choose, it chooses you. And when you are chosen to be a part of this club, there is a certain responsibility that you now take on, whether you wanted to or not. I just believe every survivor, and I know people have their different opinions about it. They don't want to discuss or share, but I feel like every survivor has a responsibility to tell someone, because telling someone changes someone's life. Maybe it doesn't save everybody, but just your testimony can save one person's life, can encourage one person to go and get those mammograms, or to advocate for themselves, to research a little bit more, check their family history, take their medication, eat healthier. It is our responsibility, once you have been given this club membership, to do the work. And I'm constantly asking God to show, to tell me how to show up for this work, because it does get hard sometimes, and because
Yeah.
I am still recovering. They say on average it takes 10 years after radiation and chemo for your body to be back to first base. So I'm still recovering myself. I'm lethargic all the time. I'm still trying to adjust to the weight. I'm still taking medication. I'm still mentally, it is still a challenge for you when you think about what you've gone through, when you think about where you are. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I ask God just to continue to show me the work that He has for me to do.
Yeah.
And as you said, you get tired. You do get tired in this journey, but you just keep going because you want to save other women. You want to
Yes.
save other young women, because it doesn't
Yes.
just attack you at 40 anymore. There are 25-year-olds, there are 19-year-olds, there are 30-year-olds. We want to spare, or do as much as we can to help another young woman to be proactive in her health, in this journey
Yes.
about her breast health.
Yes.
So
Yes. And I say
we keep
yes to
pushing.
everything. I say yes to everything you said. It's from the heart. It's from the heart.
It
And
is.
so, I remember on the last chemo treatment, my husband was there, and that's when we started the cause, like our efforts, literally on that last chemo
Mm-hmm.
treatment. We started first
Okay, tell
beyond the
me about that.
mammogram. First, we started Beyond the Mammogram, which is an educational platform. It's not the official nonprofit. Um, and so we used to go out and speak a lot about, and we would try to target young people about breast health, like knowing your family history. Like that's a huge thing. Like we're not educated enough on this topic, and and perhaps there'll be time for you and I to talk about this at the end, because when I tell you I've worked with the institutions on this very topic, they do not have the answer. They don't. The answer is going to come from us, Dr. McGee. So we started Beyond the Mammogram just as a way to kind of trigger people to think that you may need more than a mammogram. Don't throw the mammograms away. Like, we need those, but you may actually need higher sophisticated imaging, the ultrasounds, the MRIs, depending on your family history, which puts you at a higher risk category, depending on the texture of your breast, depending on if you have dense breast tissue, etc. So we could, of course, navigate our way to the American Cancer Society site, but we don't need to do that right now. It's there. People need to be thinking about knowing your risk factors, knowing your family history. So that's the purpose of Beyond the Mammogram, and we still do that. But then we and then we started the 5K back in I believe it was 2014. We started our first 5K. So that was before we started the official nonprofit. Shortly after, we created Cancer Research and Awareness, which is the 501c3, but we've changed the name to Health Research and Awareness, because we want to speak, for us, we want to drop the C and speak about health. So although, it's just some things come from your heart, and that's what came from ours. Wanting to just push the conversation into a health conversation. But the nonprofit Health Research and Awareness has multiple programs, but the mission of Health Research and Awareness is to increase the conversation and awareness about breast health, and to as well as the talks and awareness about early detection, because early detection will save lives, period. And we also work to increase education about health overall, as well as we're starting to support local nonprofits that have a similar vision, as well as supporting education, because the NIH says that education is linked to better health outcomes, which we all know from common sense. But they've studied this. The studies are out there on the NIH website, which is the National Institutes of Health. And so with that supporting us, we are now posturing ourselves to begin supporting educational efforts through other organizations, as well as gearing up to look at scholarships, right? Because if you're more educated, you are more likely, nothing's perfect, to be a better advocate for yourself, including from a health perspective. So that's what we've been doing. We just finished our 11th breast health 5K, and talk about exhaustion. Yes, talk about exhaustion. My husband is so happy. He's just like, oh my gosh. So it's the best one we've had to date.
Yay.
And only God can do these kinds of things. It is not by my might or our strength. It's by the hand of our God. So honestly, yes, and we know that, and we believe that. We've given over $37,000 to breast health research to find a cure.
Yes.
And it's about blessing.
Yay.
And when we think about, thank you so much. When we think about and I want to just stop and say all praise is due to God. When we think about the big organizations, right? 37 is nothing, right? But
Right.
these
But when
are,
you're small,
that's it.
yes,
That's
when you're a
it.
small entity, it is a lot.
Yes.
Yes, it is, because it takes a lot to raise those funds. It takes a lot to get grants. It takes a lot. Yes, it does.
Yes, and
So
those are like fives and
kudos,
tens and
congratulations.
quarters. Well, we're
Yes,
grateful.
yes.
We're grateful, and we're growing our volunteer base. We know how important it is to have that support. It's not always
Mhm.
about the dollar that you give. It's about, you know, putting our hands together, because together we can move a
Yeah,
mountain. And together,
exactly.
the mountain of breast health awareness and early detection and knowing your family medical history, that is the mountain, one of the mountains of our community. And together,
It
like with
is.
your platform, Dr. McGee, along with Arnika and the Arnikas of our community and the different cities across the country, with the other Dr.
Yeah.
McGee's, we can come together to help begin to move our mountain. We have not moved our mountain. We have not. Now, when
No.
Black women pass away at the rate that we do, and the bigger
Alarming rate.
organizations,
Yes.
it's almost frightening. But let's not live in fear. Let's live in power. So the bigger organizations that are well funded, for whatever the reason, they don't know how to reach our women. We can stand out on the street corner or send them in the churches and say we're reaching our women, but the women are responding. They're not responding, especially the young women. So there are organizations that make hundreds of millions of dollars each year, and some, and receive hundreds of millions of dollars each year in grant funding. They don't know how to reach our women. Dr. McGee, it's going to take us working together, and digging into the community more and talking to our women to figure out what is it going to
It's going
take.
to take funding. It's definitely going to take funding for us to be able to provide services for some of these women as far as getting these mammograms and ultrasounds, because they are expensive. That goes back to the Arnedra to write policy. That is something that I want to get more into, is helping with the policy of these insurances, or for those who don't have insurance. Like in California, we have Every Woman Counts. You can get a mammogram from them. It's all color. It doesn't matter, but you can go without having insurance to go to them and get a mammogram. So every state, from my understanding, has some type of resource or resource where women can also receive mammograms. But now it goes to us educating them, making them aware of, hey, you can go over here and get this mammogram. So it's almost like we have to do, and I think I'm going to try to put this into action. It's almost like how we have to do the voters registration. We need to have a ultrasound mammogram registration across the, you know what? We're going to work on that. That's what we're going to do.
100%.
That's almost what we have
as
to
we
do.
listen to the people talk about the polling, and I was just at chapter meeting on Friday.
Yeah.
They are canvassing. We got to canvass for our women
We
for the
do.
mammograms,
We do.
because we don't want to get mammograms, Dr. McGee. Yes, the education is true. You are right.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about. But there's also a piece. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to get the mammogram, because what's on the other side of that mammogram?
But it's time for us to come together, as these nonprofit agencies, as survivors, as breast cancer, and we have to make this work. We have to put more into the community and to the supports to help women get out of fear. The Bible says we do not walk in fear. God does not give us a spirit of fear, but we walk in fear because we are afraid of what the diagnosis is going to say. We are afraid. But I always say, do you want to be afraid and live, or you want to be afraid and die? Which one do you want to do? So we have to band together and do the work, because it's so much work to be done. It is. Until there's a cure, there's so much work still to be done.
Yes, and I agree. And it's gonna take the group of us to come together, even in our own little special ways. It doesn't mean that each of us as individual organizations is not important or is not needed. What it's saying is that the work is plenty, and we need more laborers.
Absolutely. That's just like how they say that there is so much money out here to be made that we don't have to step over each other to make the money. Just be the best in your field that you can be, and you're going to make the money. The money is going to come to you. Same thing with our programming. There's so many women out here that need our programming. We work together. We don't have to step over each other. We work together because we have the same mission and goal. That's to help women to eradicate breast cancer. So
yes, and you're right about in the state of Illinois, we have the Illinois Breast Cervical Cancer Program, the IBCCP, and that's where the funding comes in to fund women who don't have insurance, where they can get a free mammogram through the state funded agencies. They call them the lead agency sites here, or lead agency clinics in the state of Illinois. They have some in Chicago. They have them all over the state and all of the region areas.
I want to make
And
sure to get that information from you, to
absolutely,
have just as a
absolutely.
resource so that I can refer women from Illinois, when they contact us on where to go.
Absolutely, 100%
Yeah.
IBCCP. And we that's one of the programs we do within our nonprofit is we will go out
Hmm.
into the community. We will send a woman out to sign women up to connect. So we're connectors. We're not navigators in that respect. We connect them to the IBCCP clinics.
Hmm.
So yes, anybody can call the IBCCP lead agency sites. They're just the clinics that have been awarded the grant money because they are in the Illinois Department of Public Health program to get women mammograms, and they get a pap smear. They get a free
Oh,
mammogram and
cool.
how wonderful, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so all of us need to be working to get our women there to these
Hmm.
clinics. It's going to take all of us to start changing the statistics. So
Yeah.
when I talk about statistics on this level, I'm speaking from the Chicago Department of Public Health Health Atlas
Hmm.
database that anybody can access and go to, and you can within certain neighborhoods, the 77 neighborhoods of Chicago, take a look at those statistics and see what it's saying about the mortality rate of breast cancer in certain neighborhoods. Because we know that unfortunately your zip code plays a huge role into the mortality rate. So, and forgive
Yeah.
me for saying this, if just from the numbers, I don't need to have anybody thinking that I'm speaking in a certain way. Go to the numbers and see, go to the
Yeah.
health atlas and see it for
The
yourself.
numbers tell themselves.
It's
Data
right.
does not lie.
Right. So
So,
the
yeah,
more black the neighborhoods are in percentage, the higher the breast cancer mortality rate. So I'm not
absolutely.
putting that out there because it's what Ontisar Freelain thinks. This is what the health
The data
atlas
shows. Yes.
is saying and shows, and any of the big agencies will tell you the same. So there's nothing really to argue there. We care about all women though. um Breast cancer is a devastating disease, and it happens to more than just the woman. It happens to the family. So we want to be a part in changing that landscape for all women. We
Mhm.
specifically go after um women from the community that somehow are missing the message, because the data is saying the message is somehow being missed, whether be it consciously or unconsciously. I'm not really sure.
This has been great. Like my wheels are over here turning about the things that we can do.
There's lots of work.
Uniting. It is, and I'm already working with my nonprofit and with another nonprofit in New York about a project that we want to do, because we know that this is the year of the woman, and we're like, we need to take full advantage of this. So I'm gonna talk to you offline about this too and see how we can make this work and put something in place to do this in Chicago as well. We want to do it across a couple of cities. That's what we're working on. So I appreciate you. I mean, this has been
Same,
great.
same.
Your story, your number, I mean, your ability to understand what has to be done in the communities, and with you having the nonprofits that's working and getting the data, and that is amazing. But we have to keep pushing. We do, because there's so many who don't have the support and the advocacy that we can provide, as well as when I feel like women trust us more because we have the story. We've been there. We've done what you're doing. So that always makes it a little bit better because you understand exactly what chemo is. You understand exactly what it is to get that news about losing your breast. So I appreciate you so much, so much. We will definitely do some talking offline, because I do have some ideas. Like I said, my wheels are turning. I have some ideas. I'm going to run them by my board to a few more things, but I am so grateful. I am so grateful. Thank you for sharing your story. Um, Definitely. So if we have women in the Chicago area who need to get in touch with you, who can get some support services, how do they reach you?
Um, wow. They can go to our website. It's
Mhm.
www.hranfp.org. And on our website, it should inform them about the mammogram screens. Yes, I'm just verifying. There is a sign up form for the I'm saying free mammograms, but it's for women that don't have insurance and you're between the
Mhm.
age, I believe is 35 and 64. You can sign up on our website for a
Mhm.
mammogram offered through the Illinois Breast Cervical Cancer Program, which is the
Mhm.
program that the Illinois Department of Public Health funds. So
Mhm.
the question, if you're uninsured, you can get it. If you, in other words, if you don't have insurance, or if you have what they call underinsured, if you are
Mhm.
underinsured,
Limited.
which
Mhm.
I'm not qualified to know what that is, to be honest with you, but
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
lead agency clinics do know what that is. You can
Mhm.
get a free mammogram. And what this means is once you go through their program, if there's any subsequent care that is needed, they will cover the cost of that care. So if you're getting a free mammogram screen because you qualify, not every woman is going to qualify. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have insurance, you're probably going to qualify, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so if something were to be found within that
Mhm.
mammogram screen or diagnostic, they will
Mhm.
continue to pay for every level of care from that point,
Mm.
whether it be ultrasound, MRI, CAT scans, PET scans, breast surgery, they cover the whole thing. So once you're in their program, if you need subsequent care or follow-up, it's covered under the program.
Okay.
Yes, and another thing that's out there that we need to, kind of work on, the funding in Chicago that's allotted for some of the clinics in Chicago goes unused. So they end up sending it back,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
legislators, people have to go down and lobby to ask them to not
Yeah.
reduce Chicago's funding.
I think that's everywhere though, because not only do I hear that about clinics, but that's the same thing I hear about students, college students who don't apply for these grants and scholarships. So I get that. Sometimes we don't want to do the work. The work is tedious and we don't want to do it. So the funds
Yeah.
wind up going back. So
But the
once
problem with
again,
that is
the
that if the
educating
funds, yes, if the
continue
funds
to
go
go
back,
back, they're going to cut them. Yes.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. So we have to continue to educate, bring
Yes.
awareness. We have to keep having these type discussions. We have to. And we have to try to get them on a larger platform because my little platform is a small platform. I don't know. I mean, honestly, it reaches it reaches some people, but it's not large enough yet. We need large platforms so that women can really understand what's available to them and how we don't want the funding to get cut. So that's it. I appreciate you so much. I do. I do. This has been great. As you said, we can talk about this for hours because it is so much and it's so passionate for us. It's personal. But I appreciate you so much for coming on today. I hope you all who are out there listening, if you have anyone who is currently in treatment, who has been diagnosed, who need some support with anything concerning breast health, breast cancer, please contact one of us, Ontisar's organization, or contact my organization, the Heal Her Two Foundation. We are on, oh God, Facebook, Instagram. We're everywhere. Our website is www.heal, Heal, her, Her, the number two, foundation.org. I'm Dr. Lakeisha McGee. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, We're there. We are there. So if you need to reach me, you definitely can go to the website. You can send me an email. Infohealher2@gmail.com is our email, or Lakeisha@LakeishaMcGee.com is my email. Please reach out to us. Please. We are here to serve and to provide service and support for women and men, because men are affected 4% with breast cancer. We are here to provide support and service to our community, because our community is being hit the hardest. Our mortality rate is 40%. We're talking about 40% out of 100%. We don't even make up that population, but our women are being diagnosed and dying. Our mortality rate is 40% higher than our counterparts. We are finding out way too late. And by the time we find out, we have no options. Awareness and early detection is key to saving lives. It provides the options. So please, 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 please get those mammograms, request those ultrasounds if you need them, and reach out to us if you need support, if you need direction. Ontisar, we can put you in contact with other organizations that can provide support. If we don't know the answer, we'll find the answer. That's what we're here for. We're here to be that liaison, to be that key between our organization and other organizations that are working to eradicate breast cancer for African American women, for sure. We love you all. Thank you for being here. We'll be back the same back channel, same back station and time. Well, not this, month, but next month on the third Sunday as well. We will be back, Survivor Sunday. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight. I appreciate you. Have a good night. The playback is on YouTube, Heal Her 2 Foundation's YouTube. You can go there and the playback is there. That's what all of our playback is there. All of the playbacks are there. All right. Have a good night, everyone.